Well, by now it probably seems like old news, but I could just ask you, Bradford Ferguson of Rebellionaire. Um, Elon Musk is back. He's quit, not quit. His time ran out on Doge, and now he's supposed to be laser focused. I mean, I think he used a stronger word than that on at least two, if not three, of his companies. And the some of the funds, some of the big hedge funds and others who own the stock are saying that they are demanding of the board that Elon spend 40 hours a week working on Tesla alone. Did you think that that was going to have much traction?
No, I doubt it. They seem like the same folks who are, raising shareholder objections at the annual meeting and wasting the time of all the shareholders and all the people watching the meeting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It seems like that. So,
And like even when it was just Tesla and SpaceX, maybe Tesla got 40 hours, but probably not. Elon's not getting paid right now.
right.
So
Yeah,
like how can these pension funds demand that Elon work 40 hours a week if he's not getting paid?
100%.
And a chunk of them allegedly did not vote for the pay package being reinstated.
Yeah, yeah. So therefore, they got no grounds. So if you were able to control Elon's schedule, you have the AI in front of you, and you're like, okay, I want you to spend this. But so where would you right now in the next 30 days? We know we got a lot of stuff going on, huge amounts of stuff going on in the next 30 days. What would you be thinking that he should or should not or whatever? Where would you have him be concentrating right now?
I'd say it would be on trying to find more compute.
Trying to find more
Uh,
compute.
yeah, for Optimus, for XAI, for Grok and the Tesla vehicles. Elon's excited about the idea of this terawatt scale compute, which would be, I don't know, a thousand times as big as or more than the huge supercompute that they have already in Memphis. And he's excited by what Tesla's been able to do with Optimus as far as training it in simulation and bringing that to reality and it working great out of the box. And I think the reason for that is how good the model is already for Optimus. So you can add simulated data on top of the real data and it can work. I think that should be his focus. And I think governments should compete for um, for this terascale project or giga scale compute. We can start with that, but even before we go to the terascale.
So governments would be competing to get Elon to put some of that in their territory.
Hmm.
Okay, all right. So I've been talking about this a lot. I don't know if you and I talked about it last week, but I've been talking to Brian about it, Brian Wong about it, yeah, everybody I think at this point. So there's three things that seem to be the most likely. We may need all three of these, but one would be to drop data centers right in the gas field, so that you don't have to pipe the gas from A to B. It's already there. And so that would be Texas, Pennsylvania, or I'm sorry, the area, Tennessee, Pennsylvania, where there's
Yeah,
a lot of natural gas,
natural gas. Yeah.
and or the Canadian Rockies. Those are the, like, maybe in the Western Hemisphere, or the Northwestern Hemisphere, if you will. Those would be maybe the three most likely spots to just drop data centers on, that would have the natural resources right there. And the other two would be, of course, solar, which Tesla has a lot of experience and knowledge
Mhm.
in solar, and then nukes, where they have no real, let's say they have, I'm sure they have lots of knowledge, but they don't have any footprint in the nuke space. I've suggested over and over again, maybe they should buy somebody like an Oklo, or OKLO is their symbol, are one of the other 10 or so new companies in the United States that are working on SMRs and build on their, the best, whoever Elon thinks is best, and build on that. Everybody said, nah, Randy, Elon's never going to do that. Anyway, what do you think? Those seem to be the three that seem most likely. Do you think Elon will be doing all three? Any one preference? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it'd be a combination between solar and natural gas. With natural gas, you get the firm power that's consistent throughout the day. That's what a lot of the data centers are being powered by already. Colossus is being powered by a combination of hydroelectric from the Tennessee Valley Authority, but also natural gas turbines. So, and many others are powered by natural gas. I believe the ones in Texas are as well. That I don't know if it's Meta or OpenAI has a big one in Texas. Those are powered by natural gas turbines. But there's a shortage of natural gas turbines.
Right.
So you may need to go the solar route. There's some companies we're looking at that can use natural gas, but it's not the same as a turbine.
Hmm. Right. You were looking
So
at those guys before. Yeah.
yeah,
I,
so data centers may be forced to try something that's different because there are a lot of big gas turbine makers around the world, but they're all back ordered
booked.
till 2028. And my concern with the small modular reactors, the nuclear crowd is, while we have made small nuclear reactors and submarines and that, I don't believe any of the startups have a working prototype where it doesn't need to be, refueled, often, and it's, economic to run and it works. So that's my concern there is, when are they going to have a working prototype? The government's approved their ability to work on it.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, so I'd be curious to see, which one gets a working reactor first. And, probably that those stocks, this relevant stock would spike if they got a working reactor. Um,
Yeah, so the company that it
yeah.
has the symbol, and I don't remember their full name, AKLO, they said they think they have an order. They have a
Mm.
purchase order. They say they believe they will be up and running at late 2027, early 2028. General Electric has that whole division, their energy division. They're saying 31. It's pretty sad to me that it's going to take till 31 for General Electric to get into the race on their small nuclear or small modular reactors. But those are the
Mhm.
two that I really know anything about. I know that Larry Goldberg has been investigating it. Brian Wong is an expert in the area.
Yeah.
And
There's
so
at least 10
yeah,
companies
at least
that
10 of
I've
them.
heard.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe one of those though, and of course, Elon's got to have his ear to the ground on all 10, and would know who's really got the tech, who's really kind of in the lead. And it just seems like it might be a thing like he did with batteries, where he, buys the company to get the scientists,
Hmm.
and you know, have a place to start, a foundation to start from.
He seems pretty certain though that they want to. I think they may base it off of solar. I think that's the desire, and adding some batteries, and I think they feel like the main limitation for them is the chips. So the NVIDIA chips or the Dojo chips. Um, so I I don't know if he's necessarily going to go the nuclear well.
So speaking of the chips then, so right now it would appear from everything I understand is that between xAI and Tesla, they will end up having the largest uh, data center and the second largest data center in the world.
Mhm.
And the smaller one from Tesla is by far the largest one that's for real world end-to-end neural capabilities. And both of them are expanding like crazy right now. Again, Brian Wong thinks that Memphis will be at the million CPUs in 9 months at the outset. I mean, at the most, like could be lower, less than 9 months, which would put them, I
Mhm.
think, well above anybody else. And he must have the energy to be able to get to that first million at least. So, what other kinds of are you? When he gets to a million, is it just a matter of okay, now we turn the page and we're going for 10 million?
So it was less than a year ago that they got to 100,000 GPUs at Colossus. So Elon wants to take it to a million. Um, I don't think it'll happen in a year.
Okay, all right.
I don't think it'll happen in a year,
You're
but
betting it
I
against Elon.
I, I wouldn't bet against it, but um, I don't personally own XAI or X, but I do own Tesla and I do own some NVIDIA. Um, so we think this is an extremely important space, and um, Elon is very excited, and he's seeing a lot of real world value from AI. We are as well. Um, the CTO of Lemonade just posted last night about how 100% of the code that they're writing now is done by AI.
100%.
100%. And maybe even 100% of it is done in what's called an agentic fashion,
Yeah,
which means that the AI is doing multiple steps in a row.
yeah,
So it'll look at the code and kind of think about what it wants to do, and then the next step is something else, and it on and on it goes. And um, we just hired a full stack developer, but Lemonade was pitching uh, adding more full stack developers who are gonna just fully harness AI. Because a lot of them out there, they still want to write some of their own code.
yeah, yeah, of course, of course, of course. So at the beginning of the week, Elon did a bunch of interviews. And one of those interviews, he was asked, will Tesla buy XAI or X or whatever the combination?
Hmm.
Will Tesla buy that? He didn't seem shocked by the suggestion and said, well, that'll be something that the Tesla shareholders would have to vote on. And
Hmm.
in my wisdom, asked a couple of times on my show, is that a good idea? You know, and of course we're Tesla centric.
Hmm.
So a couple of co-hosts said, no, I don't think Tesla needs XAI. Well, then I started listening to a whole bunch of commentary on various places, and everybody was saying, well, no, XAI needs Tesla. That Elon has said in the past that, large language models, you need that real world stuff and you need to combine them. You need the data, all the data from the real world to add to the data to the LLMs so that you can get to full on AGI. And so it would be a case of not Tesla needing X, but X needing Tesla. What do you think?
I think it's somewhat reciprocal. So I agree with you that XAI could use a real world data. I think text is becoming a solved issue with AI, where that's becoming commoditized and companies are just very heavily implementing with text-based artificial intelligence. Where the frontier is and where all the compute is needed is with video and adding physics to the video and other sensors. Um, so I I think XAI they need that real world data. Also, Tesla needs the models from XAI. So if there's some brains that they can get from it, or just put Grok in the car where people can be entertained. Um, so there's people who want to get into a ride share so they can talk to the driver.
Right.
There is a chunk of people who do want to talk to the driver. It is a minority, but it may be around a third
Okay, all right.
of people that do want to talk. Um,
Especially if you're the driver. I mean,
I'm not sure about that. I'm not the best conversationalist, despite being on this show, once a week. But I think you need to have Grok in the car. You could learn stuff from Grok. Grok could find things online for you and play other videos or other things that entertain you. But it could just help you with whatever your desires are for that ride.
okay. So, are you telling me then that you're all for this combination? You'd like to see a complete merger?
No.
Oh, it's so far-fetched.
I think a partnership would make sense.
A partnership. Okay. So
Mhm.
no stock
Yeah.
exchange at all.
I'd like to see Tesla buy their own stock if they're going to be buying stock. I guess you could exchange some stock or, do some kind of merger, but my preference is to buy the stock. I see more upside in general for Tesla. I think Optimus, could potentially, 20x the stock over a few years.
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh, and I think the road for XAI might be a little more challenged, unless they like solve like a super intelligence. I think we're heading toward a super intelligence where these these AIs will handle a whole project for you.
Right. 100%. Yeah. Yeah. I suspect from what I'm hearing and you might be on another level than me on all of this because, you know, I'm just happy to be able to use my laptop here. But from what I'm hearing is that Grok 3.5 when it's fully released will be so much better than anything else that's out there. And that Grok 4, which will be released maybe in August or September, is just going to be like on another level. It's not even going to be a race anymore. So that's kind of that again, I'm falling back on Brian Wong on this, who's following it extremely closely.
Hmm.
Thinks it'll just be brute force. He's basically saying, yes, they might have better scientists doing better programming or whatever, but the real thing is just brute force. They're just going to have so much more compute that they'll just overwhelm the other guys.
Yeah, compute's very important. The data that you're collecting is important. Um, that and that's, not just text data, it's video, it's sensors.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, the name of your company is Rebellion Air.
Hmm.
Some of the people that you're dealing with right now, some of your clients are already millionaires or have over, somewhere around a million or more, maybe
Hmm.
many times more, millions of dollars of Tesla stock.
That's right.
Based on my predictions about where Tesla stock is going this year and next, some of those people who are already worth millions are going to be worth many, 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 many millions. And some of the people that might be a little short, maybe they're just sitting there with 100,000 or a couple 100,000, might finally end up being in the rebellionaire category.
Hmm.
So what are they telling you? Or is there, I feel as if there's an amazing amount of excitement right now over where Tesla is, where AI is, where the country is in terms of the leadership, that it's all come together. I just did a big bunch of videos over the weekend on this. It's all coming together. There's this confluence, and that we might be hitting the golden age by the end of the year and going crazy in 2026. Is that reflected at all in your client base?
There is a little bit of FOMO, and I'm where we have a client who recently sold some real estate, and they want to add it now to Tesla stock. So they just sold their real estate, and they want to add it. Um, I think we're like closer to a high in the stock than we are. Um, we're concerned a little bit about a pullback. Um, the sentiment is really high on X. So like over the weekend, last weekend, it was just crazy how excited people are for the rollout in Austin. I'm excited too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
People are excited for June. And we finally got a date yesterday, June 12th. So excited for that. It's only a couple weeks away. We won't say the TWO word with the word weeks, but excited for that. I think it's going to go better than the skeptics think. Um, so we just saw Gary Black sell his stock. I think Gary he was wanting the compact car to
Right,
come out, and
right.
we're it's not looking like that'll happen. Maybe we'll get some affordable model before the end of June. Um, but that was really what he was looking for. He's more into the auto business, whereas, and that's kind of how Wall Street is, and how people on TV are, whereas Tesla bulls are more into the Robotaxi and the humanoid robot Optimus.
Right. So, all right. So I put out a theory last week. First of all, of course, I think it's going to be all-time high I did move it back 2 weeks since the
Mhm.
launch is 2 weeks later. I moved my ultimate goal of let's call it the end of June. We get back to all-time high. So I'm not in the pullback camp at all.
Mhm.
Okay, so my theory is that we do have the pull of the Model Q. So there are some people that want to see the Model Q, but mostly we have the pull of the Robotaxi, and that the Robotaxi catalyst being the I asked Cern Basher, who will be on later tonight, after you 7:45 tonight. I said, Cern, would you do the research because I didn't get it done. I think it'll be if it hits the numbers that Elon's talking about, a million units by the end of next year. That would take us from zero to something like 60 million in revenue in 18 months. I don't think 60 billion, did I say million? 60 billion in revenue in 18 months. That would, I think, be by far, not even close, the fastest growing new product in history or service in history. I don't think the second place would be in the ballpark of 60 billion in 18 months. So with that as the upside and predicted by the CEO who's had lots and lots of success in his life, with that being the upside and the downside being, I guess, Gary's concern that the rollout might not go well. And there might be an accident or there might be some bad, press, or I'm sure there will be some bad press. There
Or
may be,
that'll be slow.
or they'll be slow. The rollout will be slow, slower than we
Mhm.
think. I weigh the possibility over here of an Elon Musk prediction against the negative of maybe it doesn't happen as fast as we think. And I'm going, seems to me that the betters would all be on this side over here
Mhm.
if they have any understanding or belief that it's going to happen. And yet we're still sitting here at 360 or something.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a skepticism, it's a doubt. That's what is driving those folks. And I think it's also a lack of just running the numbers on how profitable they could be. We ended up cutting a clip of the video I did with you where I did a little drawing on my iPad and
Yeah, yeah.
we ran through some of the numbers, and it's extremely profitable for Tesla, and they would be pricing, just under what Uber's charging.
Yeah.
Um, Uber may lower the rates, but it may be somewhat illegal for Uber to do so. If they just lower them in Texas or lower them in Austin, that's actually a monopolistic practice. Uber's got to be very careful how they handle the entrance of Tesla to the Austin and San Antonio market.
Not only that, there's a real question there about wanting to create a race to the bottom with somebody whose costs are a tenth of yours, maybe. That doesn't
Mhm.
like a good idea. I mean, I've had some races to the bottom with competitors over the years, and usually it's because I knew I could beat them because I was cheaper and my raw material or whatever, my landed cost was lower. But there's no way that Uber's landed cost is ever going to be less than Tesla's. So it would seem like a race that
You got to pay the drivers. Uber has to pay the drivers.
so tweaking Tesla by lowering the price. I don't think that's gonna be a good idea.
Mhm.
Just offhand, just me.
Yeah,
Okay.
and they could charge $2 a mile and still be greatly positioned versus Uber. And I think it's going to go really well. I'm curious how quickly they scale it up and what kind of issues they run into. But if they're having any kind of issues managing the fleet, whether it's charging or cleaning the cars or whatever, I don't think cleaning the car is going to be a big deal. Um, it's not like people are having a party in the back of your car every
Right.
rideshare ride. Like
No.
it's just not happening.
Yeah.
Occasionally someone will spill some food. They might eat in the back or whatever, and that can happen. Um, but barring that, what they can do is if they're having some issue with charging or hiring people to charge or
Mhm.
feeling like they need to pull people off the line of making the cars in order to
Yeah.
get them charged, they can just allow customers to run their new Model Ys on in the fleet in Texas.
Yeah.
And the customers can charge the cars at home. They can keep the cars clean. So I think if there's I think it's going to be pretty aggressive the rollout.
So this is where I get a little confused. So you're thinking there might be a pullout, the a pullback. Now you're talking about like in the next 2 weeks before the launch. Are you thinking after the launch, a sell on the news thing, or what are you thinking?
Uh, I'm ki- I'm kind of with you. It could be like the next 4 weeks. We'll see. It just depends on like what kind of run up we have, getting closer to the actual event.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So then I started thinking about this, months out, okay, or weeks out and months out, and it seemed like there would be a continuous catalyst. And the closest thing that I could come to thinking about that would have been when I think it was the Apple 3 or the iPhone 3 came out, when they had the lines around the block and stuff, and people
Hmm.
were trying to estimate and Cook proved how great he was at logistics by meeting the demand, even though they had no idea whether it was going to be this or that. I remember it like it was
Hmm.
yesterday. Everybody's on tender hooks. And but so there was a continuous catalyst because every week people want to know how many phones were being sold, whether there was still, lots of people waiting for the phones, et cetera, et cetera. So you had this kind of continuous pull forward. Oh, if they hit that number, if they hit that number. So to me, it would seem like we're going to have that situation where every week or 10 days or 2 weeks, people are going to, well, are they going to add 50 cars? Are they going to add 100 cars? Are they going to add 1,000, 500 cars? What are they going to do in terms of adding? So you're going to be anticipating that, looking for it. And then when are they going to do Second City? At some point, there will be an announcement. We've heard today that Los Angeles or California now, they're allowed to do paid rides. So I don't know how many more steps there are, but
So
we'll
there's two more
two more
steps.
steps. Okay.
So unpaid, with pre-scheduled rides or something like that is one, and then there's three more after that. So you're telling me they just got one of those three, which is great.
Mhm. Okay. So if they announce it's going to be San Francisco or they announce it's going to be Los Angeles or whatever they do, waiting for that announcement, that's another big catalyst, if you will. Not just like, our normal, I give my list of 16 or 20 catalysts or whatever. No, those would be giant catalysts. Adding another city is potentially billions of dollars in not that long a time. So what do you think? Do you think this continuous catalyst idea has any validity to it in terms of how people might view it as as traders or investors?
Well, let me back up a second. I think it's great that they're starting this in the summer.
Okay.
You tend to have a great weather in the summer.
Yeah,
You don't have snow to deal with in Texas. You can have these winter storms that come through.
sure.
You can have really bad ice. The other part is school's out.
Mhm.
So Austin's a big college town. I think Stanford's somewhere around San Francisco.
Well, it was
Maybe on the south side
five,
of it.
like maybe five major or six major universities in
Mhm.
that San Francisco area. Yeah.
So I really like the idea that there's ironing out the wrinkles, hopefully, before like school gets back in and before like the weather would start to get bad. Um, so yeah, if suddenly you got a string of things, you could see a multi-month run for sure. But typically the runs for Tesla are like, 4 or 5 weeks. If you look at the North American charging standard,
Hmm.
when all those announcements were happening, and then that tied into the shareholder meeting where Elon gave that interview with David Faber. This was in 2023.
Right.
That was a pretty long 5 to 6 week run in the stock where it went from like 175 to 275.
So, okay, but again, I don't know. Maybe I'm just, uh, too optimistic. But I look at the like a car factory being built, the
Hmm.
announcement of a car factory, and it's like, okay, that's a big catalyst, well, okay, but the car factory maybe will do, 10 billion in sales or something. I look at you and I have talked how many times about the next mega factory being built.
Hmm.
Okay, that's, you know, maybe 2.5 billion in profits for that mega factory per year. That's good. Those are good numbers, you know.
Yeah.
But what we're talking about here is just adding a city could be the same as a mega factory.
Hmm.
Adding two cities could be the same as the entire potential profit of Giga Texas in the short term. I mean, not
Yeah,
the long
I agree with you in my heart,
term.
but I think psychologically, that's where I focus on is I don't think it's going to be spelled out for people to beyond our bubble for
Yeah.
people to understand what are the implications of this financially for Tesla. So I think it'll take a while for people to catch on. They'll be like, well, it's just two cities. Yeah, well, it's just four cities.
It's just
Well, it's just the
1,000.
whole state of Texas, and oh, it's just Texas and
Yeah,
California.
they don't even have their license for Europe yet. What the heck? Yeah.
But I think there'll be stages of a potential revaluation where I don't think suddenly the stock is going to 5x from here or anything like that.
Yeah, I've only got it at 2.5x to the end of the year. Yeah. My 1,000 is low compared to Brian Wong, so he's at 1,500. Okay, all right. Well, that's good. I think that's good feedback. Then let me see. Wait a minute. I've lost my notes because I know there was at least one more thing on my list here. Whoops. Here we go. Oh yeah. So on the general economy, we've got the uh, tariff situation. I just listened to Tom Lee and Jeremy Siegel, both of which said they think that the stock market is already looking past the tariffs, that the whole tariff situation is going to settle down over the next few weeks, months, maybe it'll take 2 months, whatever. But that we're kind of the shock and awe, all the problem, it's kind of like, okay, it's probably going to end up around 12, 14, 15% average. That's acceptable. It's probably even good for the United States. Might give us some additional revenue. That'll be good. They're kind of looking past that now, and it's all about the budget. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's where the market is right now. Um, and you had two court rulings recently. So one court struck down the tariffs, and then I believe in less than 24 hours, you had a federal appellate court um, reaffirm or whatever the tariffs.
Well,
But I,
they didn't reaffirm them. They said, look, we'll give you 2 months. I think 2 months. Anyway, they said the decision by the lower court
mhm,
can't be enforced while you guys, play this out with the appellate court and or go to the Supreme Court because the part of
okay.
part of the administration's statement in that they made to the appellate court was they may ask the Supreme Court for I forget what they call that, a quick review type thing.
Mhm.
So so this was not there's nothing on the merits at all in the appellate court's decision, just
Okay.
just setting it aside for now while it plays out. Because you can imagine the confusion. I mean, okay, now we can't charge you tariffs starting today because of this court. And then, oh, well, now the Supreme Court decides in 3 weeks that it's all good. Now we can start charging you tariffs. I mean, holy mackerel, what a mess. So
Mhm.
I think that might have been what the appellate court was thinking.
Yeah. I don't think the tariffs are going away, but I think the market understands that they are a negotiating tactic, that Trump, Bessent, Lutnick are going to be reasonable about it. And it seems like Navarro is playing a fifth wheel or something like that. So, yeah, the I guess one concern would be, economically, we're uncertainty impact that April had to this quarter. I do think we had a recession potentially in April. I'd be shocked if we didn't. But I'm guessing it didn't last. Um, so I'd say, like, provided the market shrugged off economic news that may or may not be coming, I'd say, like, I would tend to agree with you.
So on the budget, I was thrilled. I don't know if you were thrilled. I was thrilled today to see that the Republicans are talking about rescission now.
Hmm.
They've got a rescission bill for about 9 billion of the Doge cuts. That's, I guess, either finished or will be sent over on Monday to solve that. And I think that's what
Just 9 billion.
so I think what's going to, I don't know.
Okay.
Based on the fact that they sent over a 9 billion rescission, and this was just for USAID. Okay.
Okay.
So what it looks like they might do is send over rescissions a piece at a time. This is USAID, this is Department of Education, this is FBI, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
So they'll rescind the amount that they want to spend in based on previous legislation. Okay, you guys said that you want us to spend, 60 billion on USAID. We only want to spend 50. Here's the $10 billion
Mhm.
decision. So I think that is maybe what they're going to do. This is what it appears. And I believe the bond market has been waiting for something that would prove that the Doge thing wasn't just um, um, a head fake, that it was going to be real, and that the Republican Party would get behind it and make it into something that they could count on.
Yeah, I hope it's a little more meaningful. I'm concerned that Republicans just want to spend the savings that they get from Doge. We'll see what happens. Um, and I'm curious what they need to do to wrangle up the votes for it. Typically, when they're wrangling up votes, they make promises to senators about this or that. And maybe that was in the big beautiful bill or whatever, that they got some spending to bring home to their states and say, "Hey, I got this for you." So we'll see. I'm not holding my breath yet.
Okay, you're not holding your breath yet. So, do you think that the bonds? I did a huge. I reported this morning on a large, very long article by David Rosenberg, who's of course one of the big bond guys, and he was saying he thinks the bond market is nuts. That this completely the yields on the longs are way out there, way out of control. that there's way too much of insurance priced in, and that right now it's the highest it's ever been in like 30 years or something. It's like 60 basis points or something of extra
Extra
margin.
yield.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, and he thinks it could come down 66 basis points and still be a hugely good investment. So this,
Yeah, David Rosenberg, he's what you would call a perma bear.
okay,
So he's brilliant. His arguments always sound like they're super smart and you should do what he says. But if you followed him over the years, generally you would have not been in the market and
okay,
you would have greatly underperformed. So he tends to be in the crowd that's always calling for recession, worrying about depression or deflation, things like that. I think in general, what we might be seeing is that there might be a higher demand for money right now because of the growth that's going to happen.
hmm.
So if you believe in a golden age of America, I'm not
You,
quite there yet, but that means a lot of money is going to be spent. And if you're spending that money, you're taking money from other places.
yeah.
And part of that would be the bond market. Part of that, might be stocks.
Yeah, yeah. Or it could be even the stocks taking it from bonds because people are thinking that the stocks are going to do very, very well in
Yeah.
an environment where the business is about to explode. Okay, so we've got the big overhanging deal on all of the general economy is definitely AI. The promise that we're going to see the kind of productivity improvements that you're talking about at the beginning of the show, what Lemonade is doing, what you're doing in
Mhm.
your office, that this is going to be a multiplier, have a multiplier effect on the capabilities of the individuals in the current roles that they have. And then a bunch of people coming out over the last 3 or 4 days saying, oh, it's going to kill 50% of white collar jobs in the next 3 years. Um, um, there seems to be, again, listening to the podcasters out there, the all in guys, B2G, et cetera,
Mhm.
a sense that the AI revolution is about to actually start impacting businesses in a way that will hit the bottom line in a big way. And when that happens, it would seem like that will make the markets pop a lot. And you say,
Well, it sounds a little bit like trickle down economics, so I can understand why people are skeptical and there's a lot of hype around AI. Um, but we're seeing a tremendous value from it. We think now is a good time to be adding people in general. So I think it's going to do well for jobs. You just had a ghost pass by your light
oh,
there.
ghosts.
Um, yeah, so I think it's not going to harm jobs right now, but I do think it's key for people who are in the business world that they embrace it. So if they fight it, and it is relevant to their industry, I think that's going to hurt their business. It's going to hurt their position with in their career.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
I think it's incredibly important. And this will sound goofy, but I had a dream last night that I had a team of superheroes, and basically they're like my AI superheroes. I don't know if they're robots, but basically I would think of something I would want them to do, and they would do it instantly, like as almost like near instantly. So like this might be what we have eventually for Optimus,
Yeah.
but I think the key is to find ways that you can use AI in your life, in your career, in your business, to make things easier for you. I'm using I'm using Grok and then Chat GPT to do a lot of research, to search things. I ask a ton of questions. I need to ask more questions, but I ask a lot of questions, and it's incredibly valuable for me.
I'm constantly arguing with it. So it's like, what do you
Well,
mean? What do
Grok is actually a good one to argue with.
it
So
is. It is.
Grok will present, they'll, it'll tend to present both sides, even if you are, just trying to shake and bake or lambast it to agree with you. It will take the role of the debater or the devil's
Yeah.
advocate, and
Yeah.
it'll uphold the other side of the argument, which is interesting. And it I think it helps understanding when you have something like that.
No, it's
We're
terrific.
we're using it as in investing, so yeah, if you're bullish on something, I think it's good to take like a devil's advocate role with the investment. And it's okay, what could go wrong? Where is competition right now? Things like that.
Right, right, right. So let me see if I have a takeaway from our conversation. So you're at least somewhat concerned that the economy could do well in the fourth quarter, first quarter next year, but that it could be there may not be enough money to make it happen. But in other words, you need money for the bond market to keep the government going.
Mhm.
You need money for the stock market to provide the capital that the companies need to grow.
Yeah.
You need the companies themselves, if they're not borrowing or getting the money from the markets, they might be getting it from banks or from their own or they could be non unlisted.
Hmm.
They're sucking up money from the private markets. So there'd be massive demand on cash. So would that what's this is that a concern that you think could slow down the golden age, or is that just something that's one more thing to think about?
I think it tends to mean like we may have inflation in labor markets.
Mm.
I think equities may do well because I think you want to own companies that are taking advantage of this.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So I think in general it's going to be a good thing that's going to swell things, but it's a it's a bit of a supply shock. So we don't have enough supply of chips.
Yeah.
In America, we don't have enough supply of solar.
Right.
We don't have enough supply of natural gas turbines,
Right.
um,
Transfers.
or the chips.
Right.
So um, that's just one microcosm.
Sure.
There's
Sure.
other things going on. So I think in general that's going to buoy things, but there may be some concerns around inflation.
So speaking of inflation, tomorrow morning we get the PCE.
I'm very bullish on AI, if you can't
I can
tell.
tell. So tomorrow morning we've got the PCE. The last two prints have been zero, basically. I think one was negative and one was zero. This print tomorrow morning is expected to be nearly zero again. So it'd be 3 months in a row of basically no inflation. I mean, zero, not 2%,
Mhm.
annualized, but zero inflation. If that comes in as expected, will that cause any kind of a ripple in the market, or is it already expected? And yet people are still thinking inflation's still going to be a problem downstream.
I think people are expecting the Fed to wait. What's the latest prediction on the Fed?
I think the markets, what do you call it? The betters are saying nothing until September.
Hmm.
So that would be like the earliest. And a couple of people that I've heard that, are kind of the experts or whatever have also said September is the earliest. But I'm not thinking so much about the Fed does because I'm not sure the Fed matters anymore. I think it's the 10-year bond that matters.
Hmm.
So that's what I'm wondering is if we have the third month in a row of zero inflation, whether the bond market might finally go, okay. It looks like, I mean, you can tell, of course, I'm just doing my optimism thing.
Mm.
It would seem like 3 months in a row of zero would move the bond market a little.
The Fed's a committee, so you need another 3 months after that, I
Three
think.
months after that.
3 to 6 months. Yeah. Committees are always late.
Yeah, of course, of course. Well, okay. So Tesla, all-time high, end of June, right? We're in agreement.
We'll see.
Now, weren't you one of the ones that said it could, from a technical
Yeah, I
standpoint,
think it's possible. Yeah.
possible by end of June, all-time high? Okay.
Mhm.
All right. We'll see what happens.
There are some gaps though, there's a huge gap at 310.
Then we have to, you think that's
It
what you
may
think we might
it
have to
may want to
go?
revisit that
Mhm. I see.
eventually. We'll see. There's some gaps under 300.
Okay.
And gaps are when the stock just suddenly jumps and just skips a price from like a closing to a opening where there's this big gap in the price chart in the candles.
All right. Okay. And if we don't revisit those, then we've got, I think some people say 380 is a sticky point. Some people say 400 because it's a round number. Some people say 420.
Yeah.
So there's
I
a few.
know I know you covered this earlier in the week, but punching through 350 was I
A
think
big
a
deal.
big deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't think we're suddenly done with the run because you had all this resistance and it punched through it.
Okay. All
We'll
right.
see though.
Okay. Any last thoughts before we?
Get right to the numbers. Let's do it.
All right. Thanks for jumping on, and we'll see you next week.
Mahalo.
Thank you. All right, so let's take a quick look here. We have, let's start with Tesla, as we always do. We got Tesla, of course, was up a buck 53 during the day, but down 338 in the after hours, back to 355. Don't know if there's any reason for that, but let's take a look at what everybody else is doing. Just for fun, I'm going to take a look at what NVIDIA is doing in the after hours. It is down 139 in the after hours. Let's just to pick another one. Amazon down 85 cents. So there does seem to be some kind of a sell-off in the after hours right now. If we go into the bonds, we've got the bonds only up 2/10 of a basis point, 44.26. We've got oil down 10 cents. That's good. Natural gas down up 0.68, still kind of in the middle of its range, not moving much. Even though it moves a lot, it stays in this range. Gold down a little bit after being up earlier today, 33.11. Silver down a little bit. Copper down a little bit. The dollar, according to the headline, drops as investors prepare for the court battle on tariffs. So maybe the market, well, let's go ahead. Let's finish. So Bitcoin down another 1442, sitting at 105.8. So it's come down pretty well from that 111. Okay, so for tomorrow morning, right now at least, the pre-market on the equities would be Dow down 0.17, S&P down 0.27, NASDAQ down 0.38. All three kind of in order of the beta that we would normally see. So not down a ton. And the headlines are all suggesting that it has to do with people being, what's going to happen with the tariffs, on again, off again, the courts, blah, blah, blah. It could be that that's what's moving the markets right now. I have this sense that, as we talked about with Bradford, that the tariffs are still a deal, and there's everybody's still interested in that. But I think the budget and the rescissions and all of that is maybe a bigger deal because right now what everybody's looking at is those bonds. So that's just me. Now let me know in the comments below what you think we got right and wrong and indifferent. Yeah, oh yeah, later tonight it'll be Cern Basher. At least I think There's a possibility it will just be more of me because the CERN Basher video needed a little editing, and I'm not 100% sure it'll be ready, but it's supposed to be CERN Basher tonight. And then last night, of course, I'm still going to send you back to the video that I did on Wednesday night with I'm sorry, there was oh, that was right. It was Larry Goldberg. You might want to go back and check that one. I'll put the card up on that one. I think that's all I got for you right now. I'm sure I'm leaving something out. It's been great talking to you.